Well, I don't have the right tools for this, but I'll knock some stalls off and we'll see what we can do. This is a hammer stone, but it's a very hard hammer stone. Better off on some of the other heavy cherts. I mean, there's a usable flake, right? Cool knife too. Yeah, it'll cut. Cut through this. This is just a pretty heavy piece. But see if I get a nice big flake off. And right now I'm abrading the glassy edges because they'll just crush. So we want to get rid of all the little sharp pieces on the edge that'll crush. You don't really have any good material there to work with, but yeah, arrowhead. A lot of times when you're working with this stuff, you don't use antler and stone. You can use some of the softer hammer stones, but you actually use wood, like a small baseball bat.
Alright, I'm going to go down.
This is very sugary quartz. We have some quartz in Connecticut that's very crystal. It's see-through. That works fantastic. This has a lot of stress fractures in it. So even if I had a perfect platform set up and was trying to remove that piece, the shock could just knock. And you could see the algae inside. There was actually water going inside. See if I can knock one more off. Flint knapping's all about angles. So that's what I'm trying to look for right now, is the best angle to strike this and get a decent piece off. And just because this stuff is like really grainy, really, we call it sugar, doesn't mean it's not sharp. It's very sharp. Most of the stone in Connecticut is not a flint knapper's choice, but you do what you can. What I started learning on. It's very difficult to. This is obsidian from out west. It breaks just so clean. It's loaded with silica, excuse me. And different. I mean, this is a nice piece of flint from out west, but you can see it's got the very similar characteristics with all the fractures in it. So like I can get arrowheads and stuff out of this piece, but I'll never I might be able to get a decent knife out of here, but most of this is just the arrowheads and scrapers. This comes from Texas. And it's similar properties as this. There's a decent amount of silica in it, but it breaks very clean. I mean, you can see how sharp edged these are. It's a nice smooth surface, waxy, glassy, whereas this is just, you take a piece of quartz and you break it up and you can see all the tiny little grain that runs through it. Yeah, rough knife, survival knife, stuff like that. The nice thing about trying to learn how to knap with New England stones is a lot of the stones that guys think are other flint knappers that live in flint-rich areas, they're used to this. Like, if you live in Texas, you can find cherts all over the place. Some of it needs heat, some of it doesn't, but it knaps quite well. So these guys are used to this nice glassy material that they can work with. Go out west, California, Utah, stuff like that, Arizona, you'll find dacite and obsidian, and those guys are just spoiled with this type of stone. So when they get a piece of chert, like something from New York, where you have Norman's Kill chert, and you have Onondaga, it's, I have a piece of Onondaga? No, this is a small piece. It's a tough stone to work with. It's waxy like that other stone, but it definitely it takes a lot more force, I guess, to get it to work right without creating a nasty mess like this. And guys from, I know all my buddies from Tennessee are loaded with this fantastic shirt down there, and a lot of them, they get the Onondagas and stuff from New York, and they're like, how do you guys nap this stuff? Well, I started napping on this stuff, and Connecticut basalt, which is one of the hardest stones we have in America, and it's, so I go from that material to give me a piece of obsidian, and I'm hitting it, and I'm used to hitting with a basement, trying to knock a piece off. I hit it like that, and I'm driving flakes through the pad and into my hand because it's so sharp and breaks so easy. Alright, let me see if I can actually trade something with this. This is another hammerstone, but it's a very, very soft, sandy material. Don't ask me what it is, because I'm not, I just pick things up and break them. So it's nice, it works as a good abrader. And also for removing flakes. See, that's one of the problems with this stuff. Because of those fractures. There we go, put that piece in there. I was actually trying to drive a flake this way just to knock the edge off. But because of the stress crack running through it, it just broke off. And that's typical. You have a nice blade working out, even like a 3-inch blade or something, and you think you want to knock that one more flake off, or even when you're doing pressure flaking with like the antler, and I'm trying to knock the flakes off, I go to knock a flake off. If I have too much pressure in the center of the piece, which can happen with any stone, but especially with this, I go to knock that piece off, and for no reason, a chunk will break off at the end. But this stuff is fantastic if you just need a knife laying around. You can get a very good, quick, sharp edge just by breaking a piece off and using this edge here. You've got an immediate knife, scraper, whatever you need. And they work. I mean, they will cut. It's not like a steel knife where you're going to chop off big pieces of a tree, but it'll cut stuff down. Cut through stuff. And most of the points that are found in the Northeast made from this are very crude. Not that they're not functional, they were more than functional, but they were crude compared to other materials. So they're just all red. Now this is the boring part of flint knapping, where you sit here and just watch me take the chips off. Well, I could just make an arrowhead out of this piece real quick. So, 15-20 minutes, and you get a functional arrowhead. This is actually, this piece of quartz that you have, it's actually pretty nice. You can find that small piece out of it. I mean, this is you can see this is a great example of, I don't want to use this. You can see how many stress fractions are in there, and how sugary it is. And when I said sugar before, it's all those tiny little particles, all those little individual crystals. Whereas this, it has those little crystals in it, but it has more uniformity. So I have a better chance of getting something out of here than I get out of that. I'll leave that for Jeff Kaling. Now, even though this is a stone, you wouldn't think of it this way, but there's bending stress that I'm creating when I'm doing that. So if the material has that cracks in it, like I was saying earlier, those cracks will fail if I put too much stress into it. Which you're kind of happy, but you just do happy. You just try and read the stone as best you can. I'm probably going to ruin this piece right now, but I want to see if I can use the stone one more time and knock some of this bigger edge off. And I'll have enough material that when you're flint knapping, it's, like I said before, it's all about angles, and it's just like a BB or a stone hitting a car window or a big pane of glass. You get that tiny little chip on one side, and on the other side of the glass, you've got like a cone that was blown out of the glass. Well, when I'm striking, I'm actually using that cone. It's called a Hertzian cone. I'm using that cone, but I'm only using one edge of it. So I'm directing that line of force through the stone, and that's how it's breaking these pieces off. If I was to just drive straight into the stone, it would go down and break off. So I want to try and read where it's going to run out on the stone. If I have like a high spot here and I'm driving it off, I don't want to use too much force where I'm going to try and drive past that high spot. I just want to remove that high spot in stages. We are going to start flint knapping. Invest in Band-Aids. Because even the worst of this stuff is still very sharp. That's why I actually have this leather pad in my hand, so I don't drive some of these sharp flakes in my hand. If you are going to nap, finding a decent instructor or somebody that knows half what they're doing will save you a lot of time. I got rid of some of that nasty that I was starting to create there. The tip's a little thick on this, but it can still be sharpened and used. Pass on the back just to straighten out my edges, my happening area. A piece of the corner just broke off. I wasn't even working that corner, I was working down here. Just that the pressure in my hand came up and just knocked it off. Got a decent edge. It'd be better if it had little stronger point. See if we can fix that. I'm still working an antler here, but there it is. This is actually a bone from a deer leg. It's called the ulna bone. It's one of the strongest bones in a deer's body, and it works good for very fine work and putting notches into the arrowheads and stuff. It comes, this is the deer's front leg. It's like right here, I think. Either here or up here, I can't remember. See if I could just put a little bit of better point on that tip and clean up my edges. This is one of my favorite tools for actually sharpening. Sharpening the stone point. I'm going to call this an arrowhead. Edge. Create a little side notch, corner notch. Whatchamacallit. How's that? Got a decent edge on it. Most of the, even with a dull piece like this, I mean, this has actually got a decent edge on it, a decent cutting edge. A sharpened wooden stick coming off of a bow will kill an animal. What you're trying to do with these is you're trying to create an edge that when it goes in, it's actually creating more damage so that the animal dies faster. Decent sharp tip on. This would actually work quite well. This would probably be one of the less cruder pieces that I've made with white quartz.